got back from Drift India Media Day. We're in the Ecoboost E36. We're gonna go for a little drive since me and Shawn both drove it. Give you guys our opinion, tell you what we like about it, what we don't like about it, if there is anything. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Easy. Dangerous puddle. Straight away. Fuck. Do we put a plate on this? No.
Definitely a plus is obviously turbo whistle and turbo surge that you can hear.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. The turbo noises were super sick and got me more stoked to turn more laps. Pretty sure I told Sarah, alright, one more about 9 times before actually going in. Every 150 pounds, I think, is about an inch in most cases. If I remember right, it's about 150 or 180 pound difference between the M52 and the Ecoboost. This is a 2.3, it's completely stock, besides a downpipe, full exhaust, and intercooler. But as far as the swap goes, the engine is stock, the turbo is stock, and it is still running, if I'm right, stock boost. I think it's like 21 or in between 21 and 25 pounds boost either way. Yeah, torque target, right?
Not so important. So the steering feel on this car is very light. This engine's a lot farther back, it gives it a little bit more of a mid-engine feel. The car has a lot more float to it, which is a lot more ideal because then you can drive the car a lot more aggressive. If you have a heavy front on a car, you will over-rotate quite a bit. There's things you can do to get rid of that, like stiffer springs, bigger sway bar, or you could go up in tire pressure a lot. But at the end of the day, you still have a heavy engine package, and the front of the car still weighs a lot, and you'll feel that drag. I didn't really expect this to feel the way that it did, and it kind of blew my mind how light it actually feels. So this just has an eBay angle kit on it, and this kit particular, when you get closer to higher lock, it will just flop super hard and just stay on lock, and it's hard to pull it off of it. The car didn't flop really at all with this engine in it, so that's a plus. Just because you could save money in that aspect. Say you put the Ecoboost in the car and then you decide you want to go drifting. Okay, well now I don't have to buy a $1,000 angle kit. You could save a little bit of money there. This isn't something super important, but just something to think about.
Yeah, one thing that I really liked was the amount of power that we gained down low. Actually, we're able to modulate the throttle when drifting versus just full boot. You know, it kind of gave you, I suppose, options on how you wanted to approach any single drift, rather than like, well, we've got 150 horsepower, it's all or nothing.
Right.
I mean, I guess to your point, right, like,
the lighter steering front and the lack of flop was also really nice as basically a noob, where if it were going to go more flop, you could actually just power out of it and throw a little bit more angle via, you know, more throttle. So that was really nice to feel.
Yeah, instead of the engine just bogging down.
Instead of the engine just bogging down, right? Yeah. You know, when we took this out last October, you had to be on it in your lap, or you were just basically done for the entire lap. And I felt like if you made a mistake, you were able to, you know, correct out of it a lot easier. So that was nice. Obviously the turbo sounds are great. I can't get enough of that. Taking it out for the first time and really like giving her the beans and hearing, you know, that turbo work, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm in there. I mean, you can even hear it whistling right now. It's like kind of diesel vibes, just a little bit, with it being, you know, so wide open.
The power band, I mean, it's a small turbo, but it's not really. I mean, it's in your face, but it's not in your face, I guess.
Yeah, this small Garrett, like, it starts to really pick up steam at around 2200 RPM and just carries it all the way through because it is so small. Which is why we're kind of looking at the Garrett Power Max for that 2-liter, right? Like, you kind of keep those, like, quick spool characteristics, but get a lot of more top end. I'm pretty sure on E85 that Garrett Power Max would be good for 400 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it's something like this is going to be more than enough.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know, I have a 1J S13, and it's 400 horsepower, BorgWarner 257 SXE. It's very responsive. This car, just with the stock turbo, felt honestly pretty identical. The differences between the car that I noticed compared to the S13, I guess what I'm getting at is I thought that this car drove almost exactly like my S13 did, except the steering angle is different, right? So this is a front rack car, whereas the S13s or just 240s in general are rear rack. You usually get a lot less self-steer with front rack, but there was a lot more self-steer with this, and I think that is obviously just because of the, you know, we took 150 pounds or 180 or whatever it was off the front of the car. We were able to throw the car a lot harder. And then, like Shawn said, we had that power readily available. You know, what I was getting at is when Jake was in the car tuning, for log purposes, I would let off the throttle almost completely, probably, you know, from 100 to 20%, let the engine bog itself back down in a high angle corner and just punch right back into it. And the turbo would kick right back in, and we would have all that power we needed to move forward or just blow the tires off at higher angle.
You know, again, finding yourself in a spot where you're making a mistake, you could power right out of it. The steering was just dummy snappy, where before you would kind of have to, like, feed the wheel some to get it to begin to actually, you know, self-steer, counter-steer, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have to really be on your game to catch it before it would flop over, and then you're just, you know, crabbing through the corner. Like, all three of those things, as far as like new driver feel, were on point. You know, I didn't have to feed the wheel at all. It would just snap. You know, catching myself in a mistake, power through, like it was nutty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty quick. I mean, like, there's still power left on the table via, you know, what Jake is telling us, which is kind of crazy to think about because it just felt so much quicker than that old dog M52. Like,
Yeah, it really kind of felt
like it wanted to go rather than just like, I mean, I guess, you know, like I guess we'll drift if you're feeling it, because that was like definite vibe of the M52. Like, yeah, we're both here, let's do this, versus, you know, this, it's like a little rabid dog almost, just like chomping at the bit, like,
yeah,
let's get it.
yeah, it's ready to go.
It's
for the
too
day.
much fun.
So for both of us to drive this car gives a pretty good comparison, and in my opinion, it gives the best opinion for you guys as viewers, because I've been driving for probably 6 or 7 years, something like that, and I've driven a few different cars. I've driven lots of BMWs with different angle kits and stuff like that. Shawn just started.
Yeah, like this last weekend was my 4th time out.
And he had no issue linking the entire track. And I think that says a lot, because this car is just, we have no handbrake. You know, this doesn't work. It's not hooked up. The shifter is floppy. You know, nothing about this is
ideal. It's got eBay coilovers, like I said, eBay angle kit. So for him to do that well with minimal driving experience beforehand it's shocking. And in my opinion, I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that this engine has readily available power whenever you need it. Driving a car and drifting, you really want to drive the car with your foot. And the small turbo, the Ecoboost, the lightweight, it allows you to do that. Being able to drive the car with a throttle means that you have to put in minimal steering input, which is what a lot of new drivers struggle with. I'm not familiar with road racing, but at least from drifting, that's what everybody struggles with. So if you can trust that you'll have power whenever you need it with this engine package, I mean, why wouldn't you? I sold the motor out of this car for around $1,000, and I bought an EcoBoost. You know, so say you own one of these cars and you want to get into drifting, or you want to get into anything, or even if you just want to replace this engine, why buy another M52 or whatever 25, 28, whatever you would want to put into it, when you could just buy an EcoBoost, spend a little more money, you know, on the swap parts, which there are minimal with this car. And I've had a lot of DMs about, you know, if I want to put this engine in my car, what do I need?
Right.
So with this car, with an E36 and E46, the transmission is obviously stock, the drive shaft is stock, so everything from the adapter plate back is OEMs. So all you need is our engine brackets, our adapter, and our oil pan. We have a power steering adapter as well.
Yep. But it's a BMW power steering pump.
But yeah, it's a BMW power steering pump. It's a BMW pulley. We have a belt we've used that works. So you just buy that belt from the parts store. It's not a custom belt.
Yep.
You get whatever brand you want. It almost just makes too much sense, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, for the cost.